So I wanted to go over one of my most used back bends. I was doing a couple drop backs today, and so heart openers and back bends were kind of the theme throughout my practice. So I wanted to go over them all with you. So like I said, the most used, at least for me, in all of the classes that I've taught as well as taken, the Cobra and updog are going to be the two that I use the most, or that I've seen the most, or that I've done the most. So all of those together. So we're going to go over those today, the differences between the two, and how to get in and out of both of them. So let's start with Cobra. Cobra is a very widely varied back bend, from one of the most mild to one of the most extreme. So we're going to start off with the most mild, the least experienced, the least drastic back bend here. So I'm actually going to turn this way so you guys can kind of see. So most of the time when you're coming into Cobra, you're going to be coming from the floor. You're going to set your arms up so that your elbows have a 90-degree angle and your hands are right at the bottom of your rib cage. So the mistake most people make is to press with their arms. You don't want to press with your arms. You want to actually be able to float your fingertips as you lift yourself up, and then place your hands down simply for support. So that would be a traditional Cobra. Simply placing the hands down and lifting up. For something that's not going to hurt your shoulders as much, because sometimes setting those arms up is actually going to put a lot of torque on your shoulders, you are welcome to keep your hands under your shoulders instead. Lift with the torso and then place the hands. So for those of you who want a bigger stretch here, you lift up a little higher, use those arms for support. Lift up a little higher. Always as you lift, try to use your back. So you can see here that the back bend has gone from being up in the thoracic spine, up here, to down into the lumbar part of the spine, down by the bottom. So depending on where you want this stretch to go, you can go lumbar, thoracic. If you want to tilt your head back a little bit, get some cervical. And let yourself come down. So as you do these back bends, you're going to notice that you still want to breathe into your belly, but your belly is on the floor, so you can't really press out as much. In these kinds of stretches, you're going to end up breathing into your stomach out wide. So you'll notice that your ribs will spread out more, that your stomach will spread out more rather than down into the ground a little bit more. So just being wary of that, notice that a little bit. If you do find your stomach pressing into the floor a little bit, play with it. A lot of times what I'll tell students is to let your stomach breathe into the floor and actually let that create the back bend. So if you take a deep breath, fill that stomach up with air, the stomach will actually help to press you all the way up into that back bend. You can notice it by just breathing and lifting and exhaling, coming down. Breathing in to lift, exhaling to come down. So that's one of the ways you can breathe for this. So when you want to get a little bit more advanced, there is the King Cobra. The King Cobra is going to not only start that back bend in the lumbar spine by lifting all the way up. You really want to have your hips facing down and almost feel like you're jutting your hips forward. You really want to press your hips forward. That's going to concentrate that back bend in the lumbar. You can go ahead and pull the shoulders back, head comes back, and then you bend at the knees and bring your toes up. Connecting the toes to the head. So that would be the most drastic. But those are all the Cobra variations. You've got a mild lift, a more drastic lift, or that connection, King Cobra. So notice as I did the Cobra, my hips were on the ground at all times. The difference between the Cobra and the up dog is really in those hips. So when you're doing the Cobra, the hips are on the ground, your feet are flat behind you, they're kind of pointed out, and that back bend can happen anywhere from the thoracic down to the lumbar. In an up dog, you're going to have a lot more strength and stability going on in the arms because you're going to be supporting yourself. And without the hips touching the floor, a lot of that weight is going to go into those hands. So you keep your hips off of the floor by curling the toes behind you when you lift. So again, you can start from the floor, go ahead and curl the toes behind you, lift the torso up, and lift up off the ground so that nothing other than the toes and the hands are touching the ground. So this is really the only variation for that up dog, but here the back bend is only going to happen in that lumbar. You're more than welcome to add a little bit of thoracic and cervical bends by pulling the shoulders back, tilting the head back. So that is both the up dog as well as the Cobra. So getting into these, like I said, most of the time you're going to start from the floor. You're going to start from all the way down on the ground, belly down. Another option is when you're coming from plank. So from plank into Cobra, you're going to come all the way from up high. Let yourself come all the way down to the floor. Drop the hips, uncurl the toes, and then lift. Always remember to pull those elbows in and then come on back down. So to enter into an up dog from a plank, same thing. You're going to start up in that high plank. This time you have options. You can either step the feet in, drop the hips, and raise the head. Or you can come in through a traditional vinyasa where you're going to come high plank, come down to that low plank, and then lift up dog. From the up dog, lift the hips to downward dog, tightening that stomach. And you can continue. When you come, sorry, caterpillars. When you come out of the Cobra, it's a little bit harder to lift those hips all the way up into the up dog. So typically what I'll do is take it from the Cobra into a child. So for that, you'll just come from your Cobra, keep the knees firmly on the ground, and just lift the hips back to the ankles, child's pose. So both Cobra and up dog are not only really good for strengthening the back, as well as stretching out the back, but it's also amazing for stretching out the core. So a lot of times after a heavy day where you're working a lot on your core, whether it's, complex movements where you've got your whole body working, or whether you're really just targeting the core there, that's a really great way to stretch it all out and give yourself a little bit of counterbalance there and work out the low back a little bit. So that is Cobra and up dog for you guys. I am so happy to have brought this to you, and I hope to bring you many more.